Yo, wizard, Harry. I've wanted to do that since I started the channel. Now I have my career's over. I can go home, right? But no, the show must go on. We're gonna talk about, well, if you haven't guessed, Harry Potter, and specifically first editions, first printings of Harry Potter. As probably this is the most common question I get as dealing in the secondary market of selling books. So. Usually, when I get this question asked, it's usually a mom or a dad or maybe some teenagers or even some grandparents because they either got them or their family members got them or they know somebody who's got them and they assume there's value there because they see the word first edition stamped in there. And that's all well and good, but doesn't mean it is a first edition, first printing, which is where the money's at. And for those that don't have any knowledge of what the heck I'm talking about, here's some knowledge for you. So, when a book publisher goes to make a book, the first print run of the book is called a first edition, first printing. And usually, let's say they made 1,000 copies of this batch. They sell out of the batch. They go back to the printer. Mr. Printer, I need more. It's selling. We need more. So they decide to do 10,000 copies of the second printing. They sell, and that's called a second printing because it's after the first. They sell out of that and they go back to the printer. I need 50,000 copies, and this is now the third printing. They're all still first edition. So, what, pray tell, makes a second edition? Usually it has to do either with cosmetic changes or they change something in the story dramatically. So, let's say they added new cover art or they put in some fancy cartography or maps, or they decided to change the ending of the book entirely, which would make them two unique different books, but for sake of argument, that would then be a second edition rather, and it would be a second edition first printing for that first initial change. And this can go on indefinitely as long as the publisher is willing to feed the printer enough money to make these books, because books do indeed cost money. Money, it doesn't grow on trees. Oh, I did it. I did a bad thing. Going to the special hell, I know. Anyway, um, the going back to our initial question of is my Harry Potter book or book set worth anything? I've become kind of jaded over the years, and I'm a bad man because of it. And I just look them dead in the eye, and I'll be like, "From what country?" And the brain's melting, and I'm not smiling except in my mind, and I'm cackling over, belly roll laughing, ha 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 ha, because I know what I'm about to do. I am about to destroy their dreams of having something valuable and special in their lives. They asked me the question. It's their own undoing. They didn't want to know and they wanted to keep their special bubble dream. They should not have asked me the question. They'll tell me they got it from Borders or Barnes and Nobles 20 years ago. And I was actually around during this period and I went to the openings of the giveaways where you had to stay up to like midnight at the release of the book, and they were fun. I was reading well before then, but it was kind of special as this wasn't really done too often for books. So it was something I could do with people around my age, actually. Um, so yeah, there were some fond memories with Harry Potter, despite if you liked the books or you didn't like the books. It was a magical time for the book world at large. I got to give her some credit and the franchise credit. It kind of spurred in a new generation of non-readers to become readers. Whether they kept up reading or not, I can't say, but during that run of the whole series, it brought a lot of new readers in. So I have to give thanks to that. But let's get back into it. We're going to talk about first editions and first printings over different countries. We're going to do the US, the UK, Canada, and Australia. Now, the UK is where it originated from, and that's going to be where the most money is going to be at, is the UK version. So let me crank up the screen share. Do, 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 do. Sharing the screen, and we're sharing, and I think we're there. So this is what that cover looks like over in the UK. A little bit different than what most of us are familiar with in the US. But what makes this truly special is there's about 55,650 copies of the first edition, first printing. And of that, 500 were of the hardcover or hardback, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Um, and then the paperback copy, that's where 5,150 are. The biggest money is in this right here, the hardcovers, which is what we're looking at. Because again, there's only 500 of them. And about 300, give or take, went to libraries and schools. Well, when you send 300 of those copies to libraries and schools, they tend to go through the ringer and get beat up. That's what happened. So, in circulation, estimated as it's just an estimate, there's about 200 copies that haven't been through the ringer, quote unquote. They're usually in somebody's collection. You'll see one pop up every now and then. Either somebody's decided to cash in or they found it in grandma's attic. Looky here, look what we got. Ha 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 ha. But one of the identifying points is this line right here by Wendy Cooling. A terrific read and a stunning first novel. There's a different quote later on. If it doesn't have this, it is not the real deal. Oh, and there's no difference outside of the format of the book between the paperback and the hardcover. They're exactly the same. They just wrapped it in a hardcover for that 500 copy run. So the insides is all the same, but to the back cover, we have this wizard. If it doesn't have this wizard on it, it's not a true first edition, first printing. There's a different wizard later on that is supposed to resemble Dumbledore, but the initial artist just drew what he was told, just draw a wizard, and that's what they did. Another good point is it has to have Bloomsbury down here. If it doesn't have Bloomsbury, well, we're out of luck. Yes, so on the copyright page, which is right after the title page when you turn it, we're going to have Joanne Rowling, a 1997. This was changed to J.K. Rowling later, so it needs to say Joanne here. And there will be something interesting when we go to the US version about Mr. Thomas Taylor here, but I'll save that for later. And let's see here. So yeah, this is what the title page looks like in its entirety. Notice there's not a space between Taylor and 1997. This is also true in the US version, first edition printing. It needs to have this critical space between Taylor and 1990, or I'm sorry, the space, there is no space. There we go. Spatial abstraction, can't even do it. And all these other things, this is what the ISBN looks like. But here's what I'm talking about, the print number. This is called a number line. And it needs to read like this: 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off. If it ends in a 2, that means it's a second printing. If it ends in a 3, means it's a third printing. Sometimes these numbers will go up, like it'll start with 20 and count down to like 20 to 10. So if it ends in a 10, it is a 10th printing. Notice it doesn't say anywhere on here first edition, I do not think. It does not. So we have those other indicators. The quote from Miss Cooling, which is one more. Wendy Cooling here. So we have the quote. We got the not Dumbledore wizard. And we have Bloomsbury down here. And we have Joanne Rowling. And then the space between Taylor and 1997 is not there. And our number line ends in a 1. So far, so good. And then probably the biggest one, the biggest printing error, is on page 53 of this book. On other equipment, it'll have one wand, but it'll also have one wand here. This is not supposed to be here. It is a typo. So if you have all of those points in order, including this error on page 53, you're a winner. And give me a call. We can really talk. So let me get out of here real quick. We're going to bring up a website that kind of goes over some points, mainly about what we just went over, but their pictures may be better than mine. I know you guys like mine, but let's go look at theirs. And there's some other points. So again, we got the cover and we got the copyright page here. More about Wendy Cooling. Again, fake wizard. Here we go. So Dumbledore wizard compared to our wizard. This wizard over here, worth money. This wizard over here, not so much. Again, we got the error on page 53, and then they go on with another error. What's this one? Oh, it's a space between the word high chair and high chair on page 8. So all those line up, you're good. And you can cash in for a lot of money. You could save it for a rainy day, as that book is going to maintain its value. So that's the UK. Let's go on to the US, because that's probably what you all are familiar with. We're going to share screen. We're going to start with that same website again, because again, their pictures may be better than mine. Let's see here. There we go. Haha! Something we are all familiar with. So, right off the bat, we notice that the Philosopher's Stone's been changed to Sorcerer's Stone. That's probably the biggest indicator that it's not the UK version. But this gilding up here, let me make this a little bit bigger. There we go. Where it says Harry Potter, like my background, that's going to be raised. So it's not flat. You can't run your hand over it and say it's flat. It's raised. Now, the J.K. Rowling down here is recessed. And again, we're talking about the first edition, first printing. So the Harry Potter's raised, J.K. Rowling is recessed here. And this is what their copyright page looks like. Their number line is not as nice to us as the UK's was. So that number line is going to read 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2. But it begins with a 1. So this one, it also will say copyright 98 as opposed to 97, because that's when it came out over here in the US. If your number line reads like this, that is a first edition, first printing of Harry Potter. It begins with a 1. Every publishing house is going to have their quirks as far as a number line. It's always, unless you're a book dealer or seller or collector, it's really hard to figure it out if you're just a layman trying to figure out what do I have here. But that's the point of this video, is to help you layman's out. The price on the inside dust jacket flap is going to read $16.95. There are some things about the barcode. I think it goes into it later here. Now, the boards. So we remove the dust jacket. What's left is, well, the boards of the book, the hardcover. When you knock on it, it makes a knocking sound. It needs to be purple and red. Also, J.K. Rowling. I got a better screenshot. We'll look at mine in a minute. It will say J.K. Rowling up here. They will drop the JK in later editions and it'll just say Rowling. Same with they didn't take a photo of it. Fine. Be that way. What is this one? Important. Just showing signatures? I guess so. But on the back of the dust jacket, there's another newspaper article in later editions, but for a first printing, it needs to be the Guardian of London quote here. Harry Potter could assume the same near legendary status as Roald Dahl's Charlie of the Chocolate Factory fame. And I'm pretty sure I mispronounced that. I'm horrible at pronouncing names because I'm a silly American with an American education. Don't blame me, blame the system. Yeah, it's pretty much what I just said. Cream light yellow barcode filled with two barcodes in it. And the smaller barcode says 51695. Ah, this is what they're talking about here. So, yeah, the barcode needs to say this on the small barcode 51695. Yep, they're showing it here. You can't see it that well, but it says JK right there. Here we go. Here's a better shot of it. So again, it'll say just Rowling in later editions. You want the one that says JK. Oh man, barcodes always get me. So they're giving you some comparison for the first being the 11th. That's that. 21st, which is that. 39th. Oh, the first printing is this one. Yeah, the 51695. This one also says that. 51695, 517. Okay, here's where they've changed it, and then they even changed the color here. So really hard to distinguish the two, but you at least need the 51695 to make sure you're on the right track. Oh boy, advanced reader copies. We're not going to go into this. That's its own can of worms, but yeah, that's what it looks like. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we're going to my photos a little bit just so you can maybe get an idea. In no particular order. Oh, yeah. I don't know why they didn't mention this one. This one's a good one. So on the back of the dust jacket, let me make sure I'm sharing right screen. Share. Sharing again. And I think we're there. It will say School of Wizardry and Witchcraft. That's not right. It should be Witchcraft and Wizardry, but they reversed it. So if it leads with Wizardry instead of Witchcraft, first printing. What do we got next? Again, that's a $16.95 price point on the inside dust jacket. Here is the picture of the Guardian. Yeah, let me make this big. Haha, big. So let me go back to the first two. There we go. Again, wizardry, not witchcraft. But carrying on, got our Guardian quote. Again, the number line. And see how they put the word American edition on there? Well, that's how you know you're dealing with America or the US because it says American edition. But again, our number line's funny looking, but it needs to read like this. And there is a typo. As they spell philosopher wrong, it's missing an O. Philosopher. I can't do it. I can't do it. I tried. I'm sorry, audience. Again, here's a photo of what the boards, again, red and purple. Yeah, the Rowling here was recessed. We got JK Rowling on the spine. And again, if you take the dust jacket off, it will also say JK Rowling on just the board part as well. Later editions will just have Rowling, rolling, whatever. Raised Harry Potter, meaning it's not flat when you run your hand across it. So yeah, the US edition's a little bit more complicated, debatably, than the UK version. So let's stop share here. Now, couldn't find great photos, so we're not even going to review the photos of the Canadian and the other country that's important. Australia, yes, editions. So let's get the screen share going here. There we go. Share. And we're waiting. I feel like there should be like Jeopardy music whenever I have to do this. I really do. We're there? No. Maybe. Yes. Let me make it a little bit bigger so you can read it on your screen. Um, so it'll say Bloomsbury, but instead of 97, it's going to say 98. So just like the US version, and we're doing Australia first. And it'll say Bloomsbury Australia, though, for the printer and publisher. So there's a difference. They won't have the Australia in the UK version. It'll just say Bloomsbury. And it'll say printed and bound in Australia by the Australian Print Group in Maryborough, Victoria. And the copyright page does say 97. It's really 98, but they kind of goofed there. Now their number line, I think they're back to being nice to us. Very simple. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. On the title page, the author is credited as Joanne Rowling, just like our UK one. And let's see. In later publications, talk about the Smarties Award. The verse of the title page also lists Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, also available, but the book wasn't published in the UK until July 98, proving that the Australian edition appeared later. So it's just a discrepancy between this 98 and 97. And though valuable, the Australian first edition is less rare and expensive. Well, they don't really tell me more than that. But I guess that's a good point. The US edition, first printing, first edition is about 30,000. So they had their proof of concept over the UK with their 55,650, 30,000 in the US. And let's see. Let me just ask it. How many Australian first printing, first editions are there? And I didn't spell there right. Look at me. Maybe they'll understand me. They can't even give an estimate. The guess is around 2,000. So very small print run. It's even smaller than the UK. I mean, population, I guess, is the reasoning. So to me, the Australian one would have more value than the US version. But if you're a US collector, you may put more value in the US versus an Australian copy. So that's interesting. We'll do the same for Canada because I don't think it answers that either. Jumping over to good old Canada. Hello, Canada, way up there in your maple syrup land. Let's see. Published by Vancouver-based Rain Coast. That is some words there. Books. It ends in books. So Vancouver-based Rain Coast Books in 97. Apparently there's a notable printing error, which we'll find out later. So for the publisher, we need to look for Rain Coast Books on the copyright page. The number line indicate contrary to the first edition, the Canadian first printing of the Philosopher's Stone. So they went back to they're using the Philosopher's Stone instead of Sorcerer's Stone. And it ends in 2. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. So again, tricksy. They're trying to trick us. Though it's a 2, it is a first edition in Canada for the Canadian book. The book contains a typo on page 53 where 1-1 is mistakenly listed twice in the other equipment section. So just like the UK version, it's going to have the same typo, and it looks to be on the same page. So both are on page 53. So the hardcover version has a distinct plain blue board cover underneath the dust jacket. Later Canadian editions adopted the UK's pictorial cover art. So that's a big indicator. So take the dust jacket off if it's blue and says Rain Coast Books, you're in good shape as long as your number line reads like that. And then the first printing will have a dust jacket feature, the original UK cover art. Interesting. Okay. Does it tell me? Nope. So we're going to ask it the same question as I'm now curious. So we're going to find out together. I've never even seen the Canadian version. So how many Canadian first printing, first edition Harry Potter books are there? Let's find out. And it's generating, wow, about the same as the UK, about 500. I wonder if that includes the paperback or not. Okay, it does say hardcover for the hardcover ones. Of these 500, certificate numbers means 300 were sent to, very similar to the UK. Interesting. Okay. Well, neat. So we're going to stop the share now. So I hope you have a little bit more education. You can go run off and take a look at your probably US first edition, don't know what printing it is books to figure out if it's something of note or not. Um, and it doesn't mean it's a bad book or it's not going to have value to someone. I think Harry Potter's one of those. It'll always be kind of valuable. It's just it may not be hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. I think it's one of those, at least for the next 30, 40 years, probably, that you can get. It's a nice shape, decent shape, still has its dust jacket. If we're talking about hardcovers, 20, 30, $40. You got the set, obviously way more. But again, if you have some other points you want to point out as our first edition, first printings, for our US or UK or Canada or Australia, I remembered Australia this time, put them down in the comments. Let me know. And if you like what we're doing here, we do have a Patreon. We're going to be starting a book club soon, less than $5. Um, Feel free to join. That'll be in the description, and have a good week.